Welcome to the Profit Share Mastery Podcast with your hosts, Linda and Press McKissack.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Profit Share Mastery Podcast. I'm your solo host today, Press McKissack, as Linda is in the beautiful Montana, and she's at her amazing mountain house, and so her and Jimmy got some stuff going on. So I don't know why, but she trusted me to do this without her, and so we'll see how it goes. I'm really actually excited about today's podcast. We have a pretty special guest with us today. His name is Bill Weidacher, and Bill is the OP of the Bedford, New Hampshire Market Center. He's longtime KW. He's clearly knows what profit share is, as you will hear, and he's had a pretty amazing career and legacy at this company. So, Bill, thank you for being on today. I'm really looking forward to getting to dig into your story more.
Well, thank you for having me, and I have to say, I've listened from afar to your podcasts and your mother's, and believe it or not, I first heard your mother's name mentioned back in the early 90s, way before Keller Williams was a thing for her or a thing for me, and that was with the old Howard Brinton Star Power.
Star Power, baby.
Star of the month. I used to get cassettes sent to me every month, and I think Linda McKissack was one of those cassettes for the work she was doing way back then, 35 years ago.
Bill, this is a podcast. You're dating yourself on here with the cassettes.
I know.
I love that. Yeah. I can remember as a young kid, Linda, Jimmy always says, for whatever reason, Linda's idea of a vacation when I was growing up with her was to go to a Star Power conference. And so we would fly out to Phoenix or Florida, wherever the heck it was. And, we'd get to go to the pool during the day while she's in the conference, on the panels and masterminds. So those were some pretty special days and some pretty special people.
Absolutely. Well, what can I do? What can I say today? What can I help your listeners with?
Linda always famously says you were born and then what happened. So kind of give us your story of who you are and how you kind of got into real estate and then ultimately KW.
Well, this will sound a little familiar, but I was in the hospitality business. I went to Johnson & Wales Culinary, Johnson & Wales University. And I got out of school, started working in the restaurant business. And at 21 years old, I don't know how this happened, but at 21 years old, I thought, how is this going to be when I get old, when I get into my 30s? What is this business going to look like? And I thought, so I took a night class for real estate, and by the time that class was over, it might have been 13 weeks or something back then. It's 1983, actually 82. And at 21 years old, a year later, I got into the real estate business, passed the test, and started in residential real estate. And so here it is, fast forward 41 years, and I've been doing it since that time.
That's amazing. So how old were you when you got in?
21. So you can. Everybody's doing 21. The math. That makes me 62.
Well, that's pretty amazing. Especially, you look at the average age of an agent, and I think it's in the 50s or something like that. What gave you the crazy idea to do real estate in your 20s? That's not very common.
Well, I just felt like I could make up the difference from what my income was in the restaurant business as a chef, and I thought if I could sell, I think it was 10 or 11 houses back then when I did the math. I did my own economic model, so to speak, right. Like on the back of an envelope. How many, and back then houses were like $60,000, and so I just did the math, and I thought I want to build a career. And the broker that hired me, I said, why? He asked me why. Why do you want to get into the business? And I said, well, my mother used to get Architectural Digest magazine, and I love houses. I love the way they look, and I love people. And he's sort of laughing because he's thinking, there's no way this guy's selling Architectural Digest houses. But he said, if you spend enough time in it, you're going to learn to be challenged by both the houses and the people.
Well, Bill, what I love is that's like the modern day equivalent of someone coming to the Market Center and saying, I just love HGTV and I love the Selling Sunset on Netflix.
Yeah, sure.
That's great.
But essentially, I really wanted to build a better life for myself than working a dozen hours a day. In the restaurant business, it's different work. You can work a dozen hours a day in real estate, and you can walk out of it with as much energy because of what you did and who you helped, as opposed to coming out of the restaurant business and you smell like all the food you cooked all day long.
Oh yeah.
And you can't sleep because you're wide awake from working all day.
Not everyone knows, but in Jimmy's former life, Jimmy McKissack, he owned bars and nightclubs, and so he will tell you the same story. And it's so funny. I'm a big foodie, so every time, and I live in Dayton, Ohio. And if anyone's wondering, Dayton, Ohio is not the culinary capital of the world. And so anytime I get a good idea for a restaurant, Jimmy quickly reminds me of how that's not a business you want to necessarily work in or be in. There's a lot of toll on nights and what you have to do that career path for sure.
We know the success rate in residential real estate is challenging, but it pales in comparison to the success rate of restaurants. Restaurants are they can be unforgiving and really equally hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so that's essentially 40 years ish in the residential real estate business. I've managed. I do what the majority of us do. I list and sell, and I've kind of stepped out of that role now as operating partner in the Market Center. But my wife and I have a team that we run, and I'd be happy to share more.
Yeah, so let's talk. Let's kind of talk about fast forward a little bit towards KW. My understanding is you launched the office you're in. So were you already in KW? How did kind of KW show up? Were you an early adopter? What'd that look like?
So in 2004, late 2003, I got promoted by this company that I worked for, and it was owned by a very large corporate entity that no longer owns real estate. Very large. When I say large, General Motors. Okay.
Wow.
And essentially, the management team that was in charge of all of the different organizations throughout the country was pretty rugged, and their idea of running real estate companies and mine were different. I always felt like if I didn't keep the real estate agents on my team in production, and I didn't keep them in the highest level of respect, they weren't going to last in my organization. And so I always, when I hear about Keller Williams always putting the agents first, I felt that way before KW. And when I started to see some of the changes being made, I thought, well, it doesn't matter, press, really. It does not matter how much you're being compensated if you're working for somebody. If you don't land on the same page as them, from a leadership standpoint and from a cultural standpoint, it isn't going to be long before you go, I can't do this. So I started looking at organizations, and it didn't take me long to come to Keller Williams. Partly because in 2003, Gary had published MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and I was on an early book call, that was put on when they were promoting the book, not by Keller Williams. It was a company, a real estate promotion company called Hobbs Herder, and they used to do flyers and advertising for real estate agents. And so I listened on this book call, and I said, I'm going to get the book. And I was managing about 40 agents. Read the book and thought, there's no way my agents are going to do this, but I might be, meaning they're going to read the book and implement. But I may be able to give it to them in dribs and drabs, a little here and a little there. And I thought, this will be several good office meetings for me to teach. And then a year later, I started looking at companies, and Keller Williams became one of the first ones to talk to. And got it launched in December of 2004. And Keller Williams is interesting because we put the deposit on the franchise, my partner and I, and we didn't get approved by Keller Williams Realty International until April 1st. And so that is a high wire act from late December to early April while you're incubating, so as it were, out of another market center. 3 market centers in New Hampshire opened within 6 months of each other, and we were the third one.
Wow.
So they were all brand new. It was a new concept at the time, and it was just different enough for everybody. In 2004, the market was red hot. So everybody that was making any money in a really red hot market, they don't want to upset a thing. They're not changing a thing. They're not changing their socks. They're not changing anything.
Yep.
They're just everything. So we couldn't get them to even consider another market center or another business model. But
Yeah, for sure.
slowly, we did.
Yeah, and fast forward to today, right? You guys have, what, over 400 agents in your office?
That's correct. Yep.
It's amazing.
And I remember a friend of mine said to me once, he said, we used to all get together. He's a huge real estate investor in downtown Manchester. Huge. And he said, we used to all get together on Thursday nights and we would talk about you and your new endeavor. And we would say, oh, God, that is just such a shame, because he was really doing so well at the other place. And, this isn't getting off the ground. And he said, look at it today. It's like an overnight success. And I remember saying, well, it's more like an 8-year overnight success. We went
That's
from
right.
being 0 market share, Press, to #1 market share for our office in the entire state
Wow.
in about 8 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
And so we're #1 in the town that our market center is in. We're #1 in the largest city of New Hampshire, and we're #1 in the state, our office. So
Yeah.
that's not because of of any one individual. It's because of the agents that joined the company right from the very beginning.
Yeah, it's all about the right people, right?
I believe so, because we said, when you're trying to launch a market center, you're trying to hire as many agents as you can, but the challenge there is hiring, saying no to people that you know are not going to be good long term, because it's hard to say no when there's production attached, but if you don't, you're setting yourself up long term for a really hard role, because if somebody doesn't fit culturally, they can take you down.
Yeah, absolutely. People don't, not enough real estate agents realize that their biggest currency is not their production, it's actually their influence. That is and influence is, a factor of culture. It's how they show up. It's how they treat people. It's the relationships that they have. That, on a launch, is as important, is more important than production, right? You want to have both, but influence is, if you have high production but you don't have a good reputation, you really, it's hard to do anything with a person like that, because who you get on the front end is really key.
Well, and we, if you recall me just saying that, the company was just different enough that lots of agents just kind of put up their hands and said, no, I'm good for now. We'll see how you do. I don't want to hear any more. But what they heard was the story from other people. And so other people would say things like, it's one of those multi-level things. It's it's impossible to figure out. Nobody's making any money. They just want you to join. They don't want you to sell any real estate. All of this stuff that was, none of it could be further from the truth. But absent my explaining it, that was the story. And over time, all things become true. We know that, right? We do know. Over time, all things come out in the wash. And I will say, I know we're going to get into profit share, but profit share was the thing in the early stages. I got to be really candid with the listeners. I shied away from, because it was the thing that they were trying to, I felt, paint me into this corner that, have them try to explain it. It's impossible to understand. And there's nobody ask him how much money he made, right? And so you get my point, is you start going, oh my God. So I tried not to bring it up too much. Mm-hmm. And I know we'll get into the numbers, but I'll just give a high-level number. I've actually directly recruited 16 people into Keller Williams. So you go, he's been in the business at Keller Williams for 20 years, and he's actually influenced 16. huh? You go, that's less than, that's less than one a year.
Yeah.
And so I'm not smart enough to be able to say, well, if you get the right 16 or any of that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
My point is my wife, of those 16, my wife is one of them in my profit share tree, and she's not even one of the 16. We weren't married at the time.
Oh,
but
very
she's
nice.
like she's in my third level, I think. But
Well, hey, you recruited her twice. To marriage and to your downline. That's real good.
yes, it is. So here, to tell you where it all went, you go, all right, so there's 16 people that I've recruited. And I checked my profit share this morning. So it's $1,189,000 lifetime.
Wow.
And so I asked Diane, I said, hey, Di, what's your profit share? Lifetime. $789,000. So there's, we're, I think,
Amazing.
$20,000 shy, which will knock down this year or in January, $2 million in combined
Amazing.
lifetime profit share. And I've got 16 people that I've hired that now there's 590 in my profit share tree.
Wow.
So that means, those 16 people hired people who hired people, or sponsored people who sponsored people who sponsored people.
Yep.
You get my point. And I get the profit share report now, and I've been doing this for about 6-7 years. Once it started to really steamroll, I would get the report, and I would start highlighting the market centers that I saw profit share coming from. And this, I'm sure, pales in comparison to what your mother's done. But I hope to one day be at a similar. I'm looking at somewhere between 20 to 25 to 30 market centers that this profit share is coming out of. I have no idea who. I don't know anybody in the market center, and yet somebody did in my profit share tree.
Yeah. Well, what's amazing is we tell a lot of our partners who are partnered with Linda and I and what we're doing with profit share. It's like having a virtual, like you own a market center, but you
That's right.
also then own a virtual market center that covers 32 locations, right? And what's amazing about that is that's diversity. You're diversifying your downline in a way that some places are going to be more profitable than others, and then they're going to flip flop, and so that just kind of creates this ability for it to actually be something that goes long term.
I will say, knowing in advance of the invitation here, I started looking at the numbers, and we know that when you actually take stock of the measurements of anything, it tends to make you think about it. It's kind of like, and when you start thinking about it, your thoughts have some effect on what actions you might take. It's kind of like this. I share this oftentimes with some of the agents in the office. Does stepping on the scale change what you weigh? No, it only confirms it, right? It just confirms it. It's just data. And so by knowing I was going to be on this call, I actually spent some time visiting my profit share report, because usually I'm not looking at where it's all coming from and how many different levels. I look towards the bottom line and count how many market centers have contributed, just because those are the two interesting metrics. But this made me look at the different levels, how many people are in those levels. I'm getting almost as much from now level 5 on a monthly basis or level 6 on a monthly basis as I am from level 1.
Yep.
Think about that. So this was something I tried to keep away from everybody. It's something I didn't try to really spend any time with. And now I think of, this is my goal in 2025 now is how do I grow my profit share tree at the front line to do this all over again, so that I can even grow it in a much more wide basis.
Yeah. Well, and I'm assuming, Bill, you own a market center, you've got profit share. I'm going to assume you have multiple different income streams. How does profit share rate on the income streams you have?
In terms
of favorability.
Okay. So in terms of favorability, it's the thing I have to babysit the least. So it's
Yep.
number one there.
Yep.
Number one. There's when we talk about passive, somebody could own property and cash flow and after debt service, whatever's left is passive income. I get that, but when the roof blows off or you get a hot water tank that's gone, that feels less than passive to me.
That's right. You're getting the phone call. It's coming.
It seems a little more active. Even if you've got a management company, they want to talk to you. So this just kind of it showed up yesterday, and at my profit share report. And so in terms of income streams and favorability, it's by far number one now because I don't have to do anything to manage it.
Yep.
And it really wasn't that heavy of a lift if you think about it, getting into it. 16 people.
Yeah.
Now, they turned out to be good. Some of them turned out to be really, really instrumental in growing that tree, but that had nothing to do with me.
Well, and the truth is, Bill, you never know, right? We say it all the time. Every person that you sponsor in the company is like a lottery ticket. You never know what the payout's going to be. Some pay out massively, some don't pay out at all, some pay out a little bit, but everyone, and so you really you focus on level one and build it as wide as you can, and then time does this magical thing where it takes it and builds it deep like yours has. And you mentioned that your aha around levels like 5 and 6 are starting to make more money than some of your higher levels. When you look at Linda and Jim's profit share, they make the most money from levels 5, 6, and 7. Not from level 1.
Yeah.
And that's a fascinating thing that happens at some point as your downline really starts to go deep. Yep. So let's talk for a minute around. I want to know, you've made almost $2 million between you and your wife in profit share. What are some things you've learned now that you've been in KW for the time you've been in? What would you share with other people about how to have conversations around KW? And like, what would be some of the strategy side for other people who want to emulate what you've done?
It's from my perspective, is when you're doing business with other real estate agents, and let's face it, the majority of the business that we do, even today, are with other people at other companies. Mm-hmm. And so there's always opportunities. But if you lead with that, you're never gonna be that attractive, because it's like, oh, I see what you're up to. I think what you got to do is be really genuine, and ultimately, your reputation, as you said, your influence starts to speak for itself. And so 40 years of influence over time helps you, but not everybody's got that much time involved. What can you do? Be a really, really top-end cooperative real estate partner in a transaction. Go the extra mile with them. And I know it sounds like a little bit of a cliche, but if you actually do that, you hold up your end of the bargain. You do not only what you say you were going to do, but you actually help them when they least expect it. They're not going to forget it. And then bring some value over time. And somewhere along the line, they're going to say, tell me about your organization. Tell me a little bit more. Why do you like it there? And they may be asking that question from a challenging point of view, like, why wouldn't you join me? Or, the point is that you build friendships. And those friendships over time turn into things. We've had people from other companies send agents to us because of our education and training and consulting platform. These are seasoned organizations that no longer want to hire people, that say, go to Keller Williams in Bedford. They'll give you great training, and I don't want to do that. You can come here later if you want, but you can go there and get all your training. And if they really plug in, the desire and hope is that they never leave. People feel like they can come to rely upon you and come to rely upon your advice, and feel like I always walk away from a conversation better. They're going to be open-minded, especially when things aren't going exactly the way they expected them to go where they're at. And then, and that's what, if they're not coming to us right from the very beginning, we want to be their next move.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things when I think about your story, Bill, that was instrumental in your profit share being what it was today is you being willing to be a pioneer. Will you talk for a minute about that? Because I think, Gary always says every 5 to 7 years, the next generation looks up and says, where's my opportunity?
Yeah.
And we have so many opportunities at KW, not just market centers, but definitely market center opportunities. But we have, mega agent offices, business centers. We have, profit share. We have so many different things that people can tap into. But it does require you to be willing to be a little bit of a pioneer, being a risk taker. Will you talk about that and sort of what led to that decision and what you can teach other people about being willing to take a bet on yourself and or a bet on KW?
Well, I think it's this is oftentimes when we step into something brand new, we have lots of confidence in our success. Think about if you're saying I'm going to get into the real estate business. There's tons of confidence, and then somewhere early on in the game, we start to realize this is much more challenging than I ever thought it was going to be. And to the point where there are certainly agents listening to this call that might say, yeah, I'm in that position right now, and I'm thinking, do I even stay? And so my advice is it's just the other side of the uncertainty comes some kind of a breakthrough. And it's usually wrapped up in this: the decision to stay. It's people ask me what's the key to success in launching a market center or even being successful as a residential agent. It's the ability to last. It's the ability to put one foot in front of the other day after day. And I will tell you, early on in 2005, I got a phone call. So we launched and got approved in April of 2005. And this was maybe May or June. I remember exactly where I was. I was in the parking lot at the health club, and I was getting my gym bag out of the trunk. And I got a call from the company that I used to work for. And it was the person who was in charge of all the mortgage operations nationwide. And he said, I'm calling on behalf of, and he named the president, and he said, they know that your launch has not gone really, really as fast as you'd like it to. And they want to hire you back. Same salary. They're going to pay you all your bonuses that they withheld. You're going to be in a position for advanced leadership. They know how promising you are, and they want to hire you back.
Wow.
And honestly, Press, I remember standing there in a parking lot, and it was like the carrot of carrots. And I thought, yeah, no. And I literally just said to him, I said, no, I can't do it. I'm not doing it. Thank you for the call. Please thank them. And everything got easier after that. That moment, it was because I literally was like, is this really going to work? Is this really going to work? And by the time that phone call was over, I vanquished any fear at all that whether it was going to work. I was like, it's going to work. Because now I've decided I'm staying. There's no plan B now. And once that happened, I felt so much more liberated, and we just started. I'm not going to tell you it was an overnight change, but it was an overnight change in my head. And then the results started coming because there wasn't any going back anywhere. After that, it was like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I love that. So, Bill, you've you got in real estate. You've had success in sales. You moved to KW. You launch a market center. OP, you've got a great 400-person office. You built an amazing profit share and downline. In closing, for those who are listening, for those who want to go on the journey that you've been on, they want to make $1 million plus from Keller Williams profit share. They want to go on and make $2 million plus, like you guys are about to cross. What's the best advice that you would leave anyone who really wants to build a passive income stream and a legacy here at KW?
Help one person. Help one person to join the company. If you are in the company and you love the company and you believe in the company, then just help one other person. Share your light with them. One, just one. And then, you know what? You can't, now, yeah, can you go out and be responsible for sponsoring 40 people in a company? I suppose so, but here is what will probably happen. The one person you have the most influence over will sponsor the other, who will sponsor another, who will sponsor another. The point is just help one, get one, and then go find another one. And, 16 turns into 2 million in terms of, but that's how people do not believe that story until I show them I just show them a report and say, I'm not making it up. It's coming from somewhere. It cashes like all other cash.
Yep. Bill, did you, and I know that I said that was the last question, but you made me think of a good one that I really want to ask. Was there because you said you kind of really shied away from profit share. Was there like a check or an amount or a moment where you were like, maybe I ought to think about this different. Maybe this is actually something. Was there like a moment in time where the pendulum kind of went from profit share is this thing I'm not thinking about to, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, what could this actually become?
So I can't go back to the very beginning because the profit share reports only go back so far. But in January of 2010, my profit share check was $564. So it was probably maybe 2 people in my front line in level 1. And then I'm just looking at the report here, like what was a crazy month. In 2018, I received a profit share check for $18,000.
Wow.
$18,454 in June of 2018. So it bounces all over the place, but I never saw profit share numbers that low from 2010 ever again. Even during the pandemic, in the early stages of the pandemic, house sales went to zero before they turned into a skyrocket. But I will just tell you, over time, everything takes care of itself, and you can some of it turns into hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in profit share. And some years better than others. You can't. It's not every year is better than the previous, but it's fantastic. At this point, the long game's. I'm hoping the long game's even longer, Press.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I love it. And I'm sure you've got some kids or something, so they're probably hoping it goes a whole lot longer too.
We have two girls who 26 and 23 years old, who don't have one smidge of college debt, and it wasn't forgiven by the government. It was paid for by their parents. So you can figure out where a lot of that you can do the math and say, where did it all come from, right?
Yeah.
Made it a lot easier. I'm going to say that for sure. 2 kids, they have no tuition debt at all. None.
Yeah. Well, and it's a good point for those who are listening. Maybe right now you're not thinking about what profit share can do for you, but here's the deal. Why don't you just go make it, and if you don't want to use it, why don't you give it to someone who needs it? Or why don't you, I promise something will come up, your story of your kids, like that money will bless beyond belief. You may not realize what those blessings are for yet, but it will come, and it will be a gift when it comes. I've watched Jim and Linda in my life too, with my kids going to expensive daycare. Man, daycare is not cheap. Daycare might as well be college, Bill.
Well, it's my pleasure, Press, and love being on here telling the tale.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everyone who's on, as a reminder, Linda and I would love to help all of you with your profit share. So a couple things. Number one, you can go to profitsharesites.com. Linda and I have a software system that helps people recruit all over the country. I was telling Bill earlier, I was just on a call before this call with someone who's sponsored 38 people into the company. I had a call the other day with someone in their first 4 months who sponsored 20 people into the company. So it's amazing to see people's success. We love helping everyone we can with profit share. And then the last thing you could do for us that we would greatly appreciate, will you please share this podcast? Linda and I are on a mission to make profit share something that everyone in KW thinks about. Right now in KW, the last number I've heard is that less than 30% of our associates get any profit share. That's truly a shame. That's like going to Disney World and not getting to try all the rides. Like, we should have a much higher adoption. And so we're on a mission to help people take advantage of profit share and really build a legacy at this company. So share this podcast with anyone you think would benefit from learning how they can go change lives and also build wealth at KW. With that being said, we'll see you next time on Profit Share Mastery. And Bill, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Hey, my pleasure. Take care, Press.